Hey guys, this is Eric Weingartner with Weingartner Racing. Today's video is about this Holley Sniper EFI, and it's me taking this whole thing apart and showing you some of the pieces on the inside. And I'll talk about why I'm doing it, and so in case you ever have to get into one, you'll kind of see where this stuff is without having to find out on your own when you're doing it, so you can just watch this video and see what's on the inside. But let me tell you why I'm actually doing this. So this unit was on my S10, and it actually worked great. So I had one unit that did not work well. They sent me this one, and it worked flawlessly. And you're like, well, then why aren't you using it? Well, let's look over the S10. I put this carburetor on it, and this is a custom carburetor, and it went faster. And I've been using it ever since. Now, when I'm getting ready to do it, it looks like it's good to go for racing. I just redid the fuel system, and I'm switching to a methanol carburetor. So obviously the Sniper doesn't have enough injector to keep up with methanol. So that's part of the reason why. But the other reason is this. That's the old motor for the S10. This is the new one. This is the new motor for the S10. You can watch some of my videos about it. It has a Sniper unit on it. It's a Snoop, man, they make you tongue twister. Super Sniper Stealth, but it's the 1250 horsepower rated one for blow-through applications. This is the one I've got a tune in it for both gas and E85 pump gas. If I run methanol, I'm going to use my blow-through methanol carburetor. But anyway, what I'm wanting to do with this video, and the reason for it is this. So let me show you. Back to the truck. Just bear with me. Right there. On the failed Sniper unit, I took its ECU off, and I've used it for a data logger. So you're not like, well, why didn't you do this on this one? Well, see this Sniper right here, this computer unit, it came from one that was just a basic Sniper Stealth. You're like, so what's wrong with that? Well, the Super Sniper Stealth can actually do more recordings. It can record a couple different things. For one, I've got back there, which is hard to tell, there's a pressure sensor right there so that the Sniper Stealth can record, the Super Sniper Stealth can record oil pressure. I've got another pressure sensor now right here to record fuel pressure. However, that computer doesn't have the outputs for it because it's not a Super Sniper Stealth. So that's the reason why I'm taking apart the one that's here. So let's kind of look through it and go through it. So we're going to take this apart, and I'm going to take out as many pieces as I want. I almost feel bad about it because this thing really did run flawlessly. Before I take it apart, I'm going to tell you about some of the stuff I did. After the first unit, I was so worried about because it kept saying RFI. That's what people kept claiming. So I did some things to kind of adjust with it. Hold on, let me turn off the air conditioner. It's been 102 today, so the air conditioner is running. One of the things I did to help with the RFI is, you see these? These do not come this way. These are what they call ferrite cores, and they just snap on. You can get them from Amazon. They're pretty reasonable. And if you ever have any computer, laptop, anything like that, and it's got a cable that runs to a monitor, they always have these. They're just kind of wrapped up. What these do is just a magnet, and it's like a filter for RFI stuff. So I put it on there just in case things went wrong. This one actually never had any issues like that. But I also did some other stuff with the grounding that might have helped. This might have too, I don't know. But I never had an issue, so I always kept these on. When that new one goes on the truck, I'm gonna put these on too. So, but just letting you know on that. This is your TPS sensor. I'm gonna rob this off anyway because I want a spare. Because actually, this is weird. The new engine you just saw, when we fired it up on the dyno, the TPS failed right off, like almost instantly. So a new TPS went on. So for the record, you guys, if you have these, you should probably keep these. These aren't too bad, like 25 bucks, but it's good to have a spare, otherwise it can't work. Next thing, these are the fuel fittings. And I loosened this one already so I can unscrew it to show you, in case you ever have to change them. They look like this. They have an O-ring. If you have a Holley XP carburetor, this is the Stealth one, so it kind of looks like a carburetor. They run the same fitting, just for the record. At least from what I can tell, because they use the same O-ring, same thread pitch and everything else. So you can use these. They're also a -6, so if you need a -8, you gotta do something different. So anyway, there's that. The first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull off these bowls after I take these off, and we're gonna look behind here and see what's up so I can start removing stuff. Because I know, because I did the last one, you can't just undo this one because obviously there's injectors in here, and I'm gonna show you what that looks like in case you ever have to change an injector or have a connection error. I'll show you what that's like in there too. So anyway, let me get this bowl off here and I'll show you what's underneath it. Here's what it looks like with the bowl off. So actually the bowl was sitting that way on it. And this is the front one, which if it was a carburetor, we'd call it the primary side. Obviously it's not a primary because it's not a carburetor. Just to note, if you're used to carburetor stuff, these bolts are not the same. Although I think they've got the same thread, they're not as long. Because like in a carburetor, this would be a metering plate and it would go into the block here. Point being is, don't try using these for a carburetor one, vice versa. They won't fit. The other thing is there's no O-ring on the here, like on if it's a carburetor, you'd have a washer here, you know, prevent fuel leak. It's just a lock washer to keep it from loosening out. Because all that's really doing is, if you look at it, it's just holding it in and holding the injector. Here are the injectors into those holes. Now, if you notice, this one is a Holley Super Sniper 650, which means it only has these holes here at the bottom. If it was a 1250, these ones right here would also have an injector in it. So I've only got the two here, but if you got the 1250, you'll have another pair of injectors there. You might be asking yourself, what is this? If you notice this hole right here, this is an idle air control valve is right here. What it does is it lets air bypass. So this valve opens and closes a hole in here and lets air just bypass from here into the engine itself. This is how it controls your idle. So if you got your computer screen, you're seeing it work and you hit the throttle, usually it goes way high on the IAC. It'll make it go high to like 20%. And this way, when it comes off idle, that gives it some margin to slow itself back down. Really what this really is used for is to control your idle speed. So you can, I mean, and not the way you're thinking. So this actually controls your idle speed, but this is like, kind of moderates it, especially when it's cold outside and you fire it up. This will let more air bypass or less air bypass, so that it can maintain the idle speed that you're asking through, not just that turn of the screw. So that's what this is for. This is your IAC. So if it goes bad, this is where you're actually going to change it. You're just going to take off the front one, not the back one. You can always tell because that's where that hole is. So what I have to do right now, though, is I'm going to disconnect these two connectors that hold the injectors in and disconnect this one for the IAC because I won't need that as well. So that's going to come off, and those two. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I can kind of show you. Okay, now I have the connectors disconnected. So this is how it goes, and that's actually where the injector sits in. I removed it. This one's still in place. So if you ever have to change injectors, this is how it should look. So this part actually goes out, and the other part goes in. And you can see right through there. I'll warn you, these are a little stiff, so when you go pull them out, and they should be stiff because this O-ring has to sit in here, and it's got to, just by its press, has to hold against it to prevent a fuel leak. Because after all, there's like, should be 58.5 PSI on the backside of this for fuel. So just to keep it from sealing up. Just warning you, so it might be a little tough getting out. Now, this brings up another point. These are right here, the injector harness that actually plugs into the injector here. If you'll notice, a lot of people complain that these break. They do. They're very flimsy plastic, and that little notch where you see right there is the only thing grabbing on to the injector right there. So I say that because several people have had them go bad because just from driving vibration, and those didn't get clipped all the way or it breaks off, they just slide out because it's not really held in place with a very firm connection. I mean, you could kind of tell. It just slides in. So it's in there, but not enough to, if that comes out, I could see it falling off and you lose an injector and things just aren't working right. For the IAC, you might be tempted to loosen that one right there and there. These two gray ones, don't be. It's this black one. The black one clips in right there. If you want to remove your IAC, you've got an Allen head here and an Allen head here. I am not going to remove it for this video because there's no need for me to take that off. I'll just leave it as part of this. If I ever need a spare one, I know where it's at. So anyway, this one worked flawlessly, by the way. But I know several of you might not work right. And how can you tell if it dies often when it's really cold and it's nothing wrong with the tune, like it's been doing fine for a while and then it doesn't? It could be that your valve's not opening to let air through, or if you have some weird stuff happening, especially when it's coming off a whack of the throttle or something, it could be this too. So I don't know where I'm sure Holley sells these and I don't have a clue how much they are, but that's that. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna flip it around and remove the back side to show you that side. Here's what it looks like on the back side. So obviously I removed the injector harness, part of it, from the injectors. By the way, they were actually facing a little this way. If you have to replace them, I'd probably recommend you do that because if you look, you got more gap for the wires. So in case you want to, if it's me, I'd do that. I know it's kind of tricky when you first snap them in, but probably better that way, just a hint. But anyway, those are off out of the way. What you will see is this. So this connects this way. Remember, if you had the 1250, you'd also have an injector here. So I imagine they have the wires come further up and over. Otherwise, there wasn't room. Obviously, it's covering that hole there. But this plate is just right here, and all it's doing is holding the wires in. So since I need the wires out, I'm gonna go ahead and remove this, and then I can remove the wires. So that part will come off. So I'm gonna do that, and we'll start tackling this part. Now I removed that plate, but I wanna show you, it does crimp the wires. So that may scare some of you, and I don't know, maybe if it gets put in too hard, maybe it does some damage to the wires, and maybe that itself causes some issues. I'm not for sure. Kind of seems weird to me, pitching it that hard, although this never really had an issue. And I know the wires inside here are very, very tiny. So this is just a bundle, and inside there's probably a couple other wires, and then those are inside and they're very tiny. But I'm thinking that probably isn't helping some of the warranty issues from them. There's probably a better way to do that. I figure like some rubber piece or something, but it still would probably crimp them. I don't know. I just not a fan of that. Anyway, we're gonna turn this and we'll start working on this. So I am going to remove the TPS sensor because obviously that has to come off anyway. So I can take this off. So I'm gonna remove this and disconnect the TPS sensor, just connected it right there. You'll remove these. So in case you ever have to change this, take these off and pull that, and that's it. And then you can put a new one on. You have to go to the computer, of course, readjust some things. Not a big deal though. Here's what it looks like with the TPS removed. See that bar right there? That's what this goes into. So this is your throttle position sensor. This is what it looks like on the back. You can see where it goes in. You just slide it in there and it will move in there, and that reads there. So very simple. Now, for the rest of some of you, by the way, the only way to remove it is just these 2 Allen bolts. And remove the black, not the gray, and that pulls out the harness. Some of you may be saying, I think I see carburetors are like this. There are some, including my Dominator on my Camaro, that actually have a shaft like this and the 2 bolt holes because it allows you for this. So if you're doing like I'm doing, where you're gonna use this really just for data logging, then if you have a carburetor, which oddly enough mine does. So let's look real quick, I'll show you what I mean. So this is the methanol carburetor. And if I look at it, it has holes here, but it doesn't have that flat plate. If you get like a Gen whatever new Dominator, it will have a bar right there. And right here they have on the housing, especially thing for that to mount that. So you can actually record your throttle position sensor. And you may be asking yourself, why on God's green earth would I need to know what the throttle position is? Well, can you see if you actually floored it or not? And if you're crew chief or someone that's saying, I'm getting it all it's got, and you're like, not according to the computer. So it gives you just more information. So anyway, that's off. So now the next thing is gonna be removing this. So there's an Allen bolt here, it looks like. I've done this once before. Here, yeah, there's 4. Here, 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 and here. Once those come off, it should remove some other sensors too that I'll get to show you. So we'll go ahead and pop these off. Here's what it looks like with the back taken off. So this is the actual ECU is right here. Very small piece, compact and everything else. You'll see a couple sensors kinda, and you get an idea. You have this one here, which actually was in that hole. So actually, if you ever looked in your carburetor, you'd see it sticking, or sorry, not your carburetor, but your EFI here. You'd see it sticking through that hole right there, which it's not doing a very good job of zooming in or whatever, but that hole. That one, I believe, I'm not 100% sure, I believe that's a temperature. And let me explain why it is when I talk about this one. But I think that's temperature, it's recording your air temperature. Maybe say MAT or manifold air temperature. This one right here, I believe, is your MAP sensor. In other words, it's the one monitoring your pressure. And it actually goes here. And the reason why I believe it's manifold pressure, and I could be wrong, is because if I look at this, that whole passage goes through here. And this is underneath, it's in the plenum of the manifold. So the manifold will be right here, and it's actually taking a reading from this. So in my mind, if it is man, it has to be mapped because it's underneath here. If I was recording here, I'd just be getting not necessarily what the engine's actually doing. This will get a better idea because it's down here, what the engine is doing. So I believe that's your map sensor and that's your air temperature sensor. Unfortunately, I wish this was more of a barb because I could hook a little line up to it and then connect to a fitting in my manifold now, and I could actually record my map. So I can actually see, because the computer has a good tune, and I can see how it's actually lining up with how the carburetor is doing, if I could get that. The air temperature one's really, it's there. It's whatever is really breathing, so it's where I mounted it, it's kind of right, but not exact, so it's close enough. Anyway, this is off now, so the entire pieces are off. So the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to tape up these, because obviously I don't want it sending an electrical signal for an injector, so I don't need that one. And then this one for the IAC is also getting taped. The other ones won't have to be. Oh, sorry, this one's for the IAC. This one's for the TPS. So this one gets taped because I don't have a TPS. But if I ever get a carburetor that does, I will. And this one will get taped for the IAC because it won't have one. And that takes it off. And again, why am I doing this? Just to help you out. This is if you got a sniper unit, it's not working for you, but I mean, in other words, it keeps flickering off. If you take this apart, because that's what I did on the other one, you can use it to record other stuff. So let's say you got your fancy dash already that you spend a lot of money on, you want it to record everything, like RPM and everything. All that's there. As long as you plug in all the stuff, you'll have it. Matter of fact, that's an O2 reading right there. So if you look how I have it now, I've got it right here, and I've got it taped off, but I've got right here, I got my water temperature, so that's going in there. And because it's going in there, the sniper also turns on both my electric water pump and the fan, even though I'm running a carburetor. So it can do a lot of other stuff besides that, besides just data recording, and it shows up on the dash. So there's a lot of things it could still do, even though it may not function with electronic stuff. You might be saying, well, if you're putting a sniper on it, why are you putting that on there? I actually want redundant systems. So in case, whatever reason, that sniper that I have on the new motor decides it doesn't want to work today, I can just simply take it off and switch to the carburetor, put a different regulator on it, which is this one. So I want to have two regulator systems, one for carb and one for EFI. Switch it, and then I can still have all my readings going on. Also, not only that, let's say the sniper is actually working well, or at least I think it is, but I'm not for sure about how the O2 is reading, or I think the O2 might be off, or the water temperature might be off. Having a redundant system, I can look at the two and go, I got two water temperature sensors and one's way off, or I have two O2s and one's out to lunch. If the one that's out to lunch is the one that's controlling the sniper, that may not be a good thing, because that's controlling your fuel. So redundant systems, in other words. I just don't want any other errors to be able to pick up on it. So right now it's simply because I also wanted, because it'll data log, and not only that, my fuel pressure and my oil pressure now. So I'm going to take this one off and put the other one on, and it'll be the same type of situation.